Okay. Okay. So our chapter is psych. Chapter 20, testing in the law. The objectives that I will be talking about are how to describe the basis on which the federal government regulates psychological testing, and to describe the EEOC and what the impact of PL 94-142 is, and the importance of Hobson versus Hansen. First, the laws governing the use of tests. Federal authorities, most most federal authorities, they can like choose what they want to spend the government's money on, whether that is testing, whether that is funding for like roads, for schools, for different businesses. And they can also regulate like activities such as like wars, I guess. And so the government basically just uses, they can control the spending of anything that they want to. So like a higher like company. So if you're from Oklahoma, you'll know about like OG&E. Some of that is government money because they are getting paid to get oil and all that stuff. And then also they can withhold money, such as like programs in schools, like food. Like, how do y'all know about uh, let's see, like reduced lunch for children?
Yes.
So that's basically a government uh, based program. So like they have certain limitations for the people to get the reduced lunch and certain people who don't, for like um the income of the parent. That's how they determine that. Or even like tests, if they find it like resourceful, that's the only way they will actually put money into that test. They wouldn't just do a random test just to do it. It has to be a reasoning for it. Next one is the EEOC, Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. The government uses the 14th Amendment to regulate the testing. And the 14th Amendment is the Equal Protection Law. So that's against race, sexuality, gender, religion, yeah, stuff like that. And then, so this whole basis for them is to just make sure it's equal for everybody to get the same opportunities all around the board. Does it usually happen like that? Not usually, but there's a law for it. But they also, I did read that don't really, they found like loopholes to have the 14th Amendment placed in while being able to still run the businesses and do all the stuff that they want to do their own way. Um, the EEOC also goes with the fourth fifth rule, so it has to have at least a portion of each. I want to say race in each business. So say there's a hundred, a hundred women, no, 100 people who are searching for a job, and they all apply for this one job. It has to be 25% African American, 25% Caucasian, 25% Asian, 25% Hispanic. They can't just say, well, we want 75% Caucasian and then 25% African American. That wouldn't really correlate because not everybody is getting an opportunity to be in the running for the job, I would say. And the EEOC also tackles with sexual harassment, and it wouldn't just be for women, it'll be for men too. It could be for men on men on men, women on men, stuff like that. Either way, it's sexual harassment and everybody needs to be protected, I would say. Let me go back. Yeah, the EEOC is basically just implemented to make everyone feel safe and secure and make sure that they all have a way and like a fairness in the whole game of life, basically. And the next one is the PL 94 142, which is also known as the Public Law 94 142, which is for disability of children and for them to get fair access as well to like testing and schooling. And this really helps with like, I don't say Down syndrome, like people who have like dyslexia. They get extra time on their tests, and that's because of this law. They It's really just kind of like the EEOC, but for disability children. So everyone could feel equal and have a fair chance at achieving stuff. And the next one is Hobson versus Hansen, which is um, when they placed where they placed children. It took place when they placed children upon non-segregated schools. So instead of having like the ability test for like different races and then putting them differently, they usually just did it all together. And instead of like having it be fair, it was kind of rigged against the Black people because the way the test would go, they were placed either in honors, regular, general, and basic, which honors, of course, is like the highest level you can go into the school. And they would get more opportunities and learn more about schooling and like college and how to make money in the real world. Our regular uh, level would get those same kind of opportunities, but not as much as honors. And in general, it's kind of just like how we did math and just science in freshman year. So you get the basics, but you're not really gonna get much. And then basic is kind of the lowest level, which is you can learn the math and stuff, but you're not gonna get to the opportunities as either regular or honors. You're not gonna get to learn how to make money in the real world. You're not gonna get to like learn how to go to college and like face those challenges, I would say. And then so most white students during this trial, they noticed that most white students got into honors while most Black students got into basics. And when they went to court for it, the judges realized that the test scores were being discriminated against Black people. Yes. So the importance of the Hobson versus Hansen was to really just show that Black people can be, well, African Americans or people of color in general should have the same opportunities as their Caucasian counterparts. And to just really give us a fair chance, I would say, not just to let us sit on the sidelines saying, this is what y'all get, this is all that y'all even need, because y'all probably won't get to this level. Because as you can tell, we've kind of grew as people of color and showed them that while we are kind of not lesser than, but we have more trials against us, we could still face those trials and get past them and show our brains as well. Yeah. So yeah, that is mine. And if y'all want to share y'all's next.
I think I'm going next.
Okay.
So I have to share my screen. Yeah. Can you all see my screen?
Just go to that green arrow that says share screen at the bottom.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you see it now?
What'd you say?
Can you see my screen right now?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to. It's already.
Can we just pull yours up?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I think. Wow. Can you please tell me what to do? The PowerPoint is on my laptop right now, but I don't know how to share it.
I'm gonna pull it up on mine. I'll just share it through mine.
Okay, yeah. Okay, can do that. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. I'm talking about the learning objectives. I have 4 learning objectives right here. The number 1 is describing the New York truth in testing law after how it affects the use of psychology context. Number 2, describe the events that lead to the Civil Rights Act of 1991. I'm going to discuss that. Review the issue relevant to the No Child Left Behind Act. Explain why reaching the Stefano may be regarded as setback for the civil rights movement. Yeah, next one. Yeah, the New York Testing Law. The New York Testing Law in 1948, the ETS was created by the College Entrance Examination Board, the American Council on Education and Foundation. Its original base mission was to create and administer aptitude tests, such as SAT, reasoning tests for students. The next one. Okay. The New York law. There are three laws proposed by the New York law. The number one is disclose all students in the validity of a test. Number two, provide a complete disclosure to students about what sport means and how they are calculated. Number three, on request by a student, provide a copy of the question, the correct answer, and the student are answered. Unfortunately, the test developer had issue with the test law. They believe that the question cannot be released to the student, but the later proceed to the third part of the law and explain that this like and explain that it's like doing much to acquire little things. So, okay, yeah. So the was formed as the 1991 Civil Act. The case concerns salmon canneries in Alaska. Most of the workers were unskilled Filipinos and Eskimos, which like species in season. Because the jobs were unsteady and dirty, they were the worst in the company. Number three, the employees claimed that the company biased against them and kept them out of better paying jobs, such as machinery repair. The ninth Supreme Court justice decided not to hear the case, returning it to the law courts. In refusing to hear the case, the court noted that the burden of the proof to be shifted from the employer to the employee. The review of the issue of relevance to the No Child Left Behind. The criteria reference, we have to test that was under the No Child Left Behind. We have a non-reference test and we have a criterion reference test. A non-reference test compare each person with a norm. So this test is like when a student do an exam and doesn't pass it, so they compare the children to another children that perform very well. While the criterion reference test compare the student with a norm, with a reference test, like a criterion. Let's say a children did math test like addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And if the child doesn't do well in one of those tests, the school will organize a program for the child. Then after this, so make sure that the child meets up to the required standard. Now, a criterion reference test. This describes the type of skills, thoughts, and knowledge that test takers can demonstrate, such as mathematics skills. Instead of comparing how well children were performing in relation to other children, schools were evaluated based on children exceeding a criterion score. Under the No Child Left Behind legislation, if the children is too high to meet the criterion, the school may lose funding. Actually, what this is saying is that the government established a law to make sure that all students pass the criterion test. And if the children in the school doesn't pass the criterion test, the school will not receive funding by the government. So they may lose funding if none of the children in the school pass the criterion test. The next one, thank you. The next one. Okay. Now, why Richie and Di Stefano may be regarded as a setback for the civil rights movement. Now, in 2009, the Supreme Court ruled on a lawsuit against the city of New Haven, Connecticut, the shoot was brought by 20 firefighters who do not get promoted. Actually, what happened here is that the in the firefighter they conducted a test for 20 white, 1 Hispanic, and 20 Black African American. So in the test, the Black African American doesn't score up to the required goal of the test. So the Black African American were denied promotion. So they took the case to the court, and the court said that they have to make sure that they ignore, they said, okay, let me try to read this way. In 2009, the Supreme Court ruled on a lawsuit against the city of New Avenue, Connecticut. The suit was brought by 20 firefighters who do not get promoted. However, the city of New Avenue had decided not to use the result because none of the African American obtained score high enough to be considered for advanced promotion. The impact of reaching decision remains to be evaluated. Some argue that it promotes notion of judicial conduct, and it has also been argued that job-related assessment tools can be used to correct this racial imbalance. So what the Supreme Court did here is that they look at the case that was brought to them, and they want to favor the Black African American. But there were arguments from other people that say that the judicial decision to favor the 20 Black African American firefighters by not considering the score based on the promotion test that they did. And other people also argued that the test they should have considered the case. It has also been argued that job-related assessment tools can be used to correct racial imbalance. So the next one. Okay. Yeah, I think that's all. Yeah. Thank you.
Would you like me to just send you mine?
Yeah, you can, or if you want to share it on yours.
Well, this says host disable participation, screen sharing.
Oh, oops. Okay. Yeah, you could just send it.
Um, I don't know, I just hate having it just running. Okay. So, doing chapter 20, testing in law. Looking into the next one. So, my learning objectives were describing the issues within the Diana versus State Board of Education and how it differs from the major issues in Larry P. versus Wilson Rouse case, and then comparing and contrasting the decisions in Larry P. v. versus LOL Wilson Rouse and Parents and Actions on Special Education versus Human, discussing the importance of Parents versus Seattle and describing how the courts are involved in the one of personnel test. Oh, sorry. We can go to the next one.
Oh,
So the issues within this case is that they standardized IQ tests on bilingual children, which are Mexican American and Chinese American students, for placements into EMR classes, which stands for educationally mental retarded, there you go, classes. The test is usually tested on white children, which whose primary language is English, but for bilingual children, their first language isn't English, which causes them to score low on the IQ test and ends up putting them into EMR classes. The California State of Board of Education changed their particular provision for bilingual children to use their primary language on the test, but they only limited this provision to only Mexican and Chinese children, but not African American. So these two cases differ because Larry P. wanted it to be equal for African American students to have the same opportunity as the bilingual children. He also felt that the IQ tests were biased towards African American children and played a huge part in turning down African American children into a successful education. Um, his experts experts argued that the LOL, messed up. Sorry. Larry's experts argued that the IQ experts were racist, put one race in the EMI category. So the IQ experts didn't agree with banning of the IQ test. They felt it was harming the African American children than actually helping them. The IQ experts felt that it was better to teach them slower because I guess they learned it better. That's it for that one. So comparing and contrasting the Larry P. versus Wilson trial case and the special education versus Hannon case was that Judge Grady felt like the test wasn't biased towards African American, but didn't like favor the white children either. So he felt that EMH classes were designed to help the children that could not retain information as quickly, but it was designed to break it down and teach it slower for children. And EMH stands for, I wrote it down, educable mentally handicapped students. And Judge Peckham felt the EMR classes was designed to like basically hold them back and would put them behind in classes, but in reality, putting them in regular classes held them back more because they weren't able to retain information as fast. So it was probably better to put them in a class for that time being. But to compare the two, they both wanted the same thing for the students. They just wanted them to learn and get the same education, whether it was in the class in an EMR class or EMH class or a regular class. And then the importance of Parents versus Seattle. I felt like this case shouldn't have been a case because Ballard's focus was to help out the minority students because it is hard for minorities to get a good education like white people. So this school solely based its teaching on minority kids. They did accept some white children, but most minority kids to get them ready for college courses, and gave them advanced academic programs. Because as we know, some minority schools don't offer the classes, so it's harder for them to actually get into college if they can't take extra classes, extra like dual credit classes. So they the parents of the student that didn't get into the school made a complaint, and took it to court with a whole bunch of other parents as well, and basically felt like it was unfair that they didn't accept her son, which is white, into the school. But it wasn't too much of an issue to the court because they don't have to let the student in; they just have to let him apply to get into the school. And then the courts were involved in a personal test with the Supreme Court was involved in the Greggs versus Duke Power Company by ruling the employment test must be valid and reliable. So this case was that the white employees and black employees were not paid the same. So, as you know, the white employees were paid more, but it was by some cents, but still. Whenever they wanted to like move up in the job, like get a promotion, they would have to take a test. But at first that test wasn't placed until Willis Boyd made a complaint. Him and his coworkers made a complaint to the company about how it wasn't fair that they could move up in their job. So the company decided to make a ridiculous test of basically the question was weird. Like it wasn't like it was rude. Like nobody taught them that. So like they couldn't pass the test because no one taught them the work. But even the white employees failed too. So this proved that the company was biased towards African American men because they expected their white employees to pass, but they failed, and half of them didn't even graduate from high school, but they were still like willing to move up the white man. So they ruled the employment test. So that's it for that too. So I'm done. For me.
I think that was all.
Yes.
Good job. Okay, I will figure out how to